I'm a hair mineral analysis expert. I have a background in functional medicine, and I educate people using HTMA testing to maximize health, erase debilitating symptoms, and gain energy. I'm a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, and I'm constantly searching for high-performance pros from all over the world to bring you this human optimization podcast. My name is Lisa Pitel-Killah. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Pitel-Killah, and I am so excited to have here with me today Dr. Kaayla Daniel, PhD, aka the Naughty Nutritionist. She holds her doctorate in nutritional sciences and anti-aging therapies, but is so much more. Kaayla has written several books, including Nourishing Broth. If you're watching, I have it right here. The Whole Soy Story, and Hook, Line, and Stinker, The Truth About Fermented Cod Liver Oil. She is regarded as one of the top experts in broth, having researched and wrote about the benefits of broth and gelatin well over a decade ahead of the current interest in broth. Kaayla's coaching and consulting focus with OFM, Optimized Fat Metabolism, is geared toward active baby boomers who want to carry out zest for life for decades beyond their 60s and 70s. Dr. Kaayla has been a guest on the Dr. Oz Show, PBS Healing Quest, NPR's People's Pharmacy, and has spoken at numerous health and wellness summits, podcasts, and conferences, including PaleoFX, Ancestral Health Symposium, and Charles Poliquin's Biosignature. Welcome, Dr. Kaayla.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
Oh, well, we are honored to have you here. Just so much amazing information we are going to cover today. And so tell us about yourself and your PhD studies with regards to nutritional science and anti-aging. I know all the listeners are going to want to know all about that.
Well, I have a passion for anti-aging and alternative healing, and with nutrition being the foundation. So my PhD is in nutritional sciences and anti-aging therapies. And as part of that PhD program, I did as my dissertation a more formal version of my book, The Whole Soy Story. So there was a heavy amount of research into soy for that book. And as part of that, all of the research with the USDA and many government agencies and soy, actually telling us a whole lot about legumes in general, plant-based diets in general, and so many topics with soy being the focus.
And so let's talk about the Whole Soy Story. Give us some of your findings that were kind of the aha moments that are in your book.
Yes, well, I had originally gone into the project thinking it would be something I could wrap up pretty quickly in, say, 6 months, get a nice book out there, help people. And several years later, I was still struggling with the thousands of studies, the research, which goes back 60, 70 years.
Oh my gosh.
And the basic findings, if I'm going to sum them up, would be that soy contributes to malnutrition, digestive distress, immune system dysfunctions, thyroid problems, reproductive problems, including loss of libido, as well as fertility problems. Attention deficit disorder, it's one of the top 7 allergies and soon to be in the top 4. There's more and more people with soy allergies now. And soy even can contribute to some forms of heart disease and can contribute to the acceleration, growth, and cause of cancer. And these are things soy is advertised as protecting us.
Wow, that is an incredible list of issues associated with soy. And oh my goodness. So what do you think? I mean, your opinion about vegetarians and vegans obviously using that as kind of their primary protein source. What are your thoughts and your advice that you would give them?
Vegans particularly are one of the high-risk groups, and the reason would be they're quite likely to be eating a tremendous amount of soy. They might be having soy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and if they're trying to be a high-protein vegan, a low-carbohydrate vegan, they're almost forced into using a lot of soy in their diet, right. And that's where they get into trouble. Because unless we're allergic to soy, for most of us, a little bit here and there is not going to be a big deal. But if we're having it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, it's adding up quickly, and there will be consequences.
Absolutely. And so obviously we've heard of what some of those consequences are. And so finding an alternative source, if you're, on a vegan diet, especially, might be a really good idea.
For sure. And for many athletes too, some of those awful protein powders are soy based, and
Yes.
athletes, fitness people who are doing a lot of those kind of protein powders may very well get into trouble. And some of the other high risk people would be infants on soy infant formula because, well, they're babies and that's all they're eating.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the options that I think some more people now are getting into is the hemp protein, with regards when we're talking about athletes. And so that would be an alternative to soy. And just reading the labels on things, right? And knowing what's in your protein powder or what is in what you're using, especially if you're using it for a lot of support, that's going to be really important. I really want to dive into this because I picked this up a couple weeks ago. I was so excited to have this. And so broth, I've been using it a lot. I've been suggesting it a lot in my practice, and I have for years. But I mean, with the extensive research that you've done, tell us about all the benefits that come with using broth.
Yes, so many benefits. And I love that project because having something positive, something natural that can be the foundation of our diet.
Yes.
And particularly now in the winter, it's very easy to have a lot of bone broth, have a lot of soups and stews based on bone broth, very digestible. And a long, long history. I mean, it goes back to, well, it's now being called Jewish penicillin, but it goes all the way back to, say, Maimonides and others who were recommending it as the foundation towards healing. And Hippocrates, Galen, they all talked about first healing the gut, and what's better for healing the gut than bone broth. Florence Nightingale in 1859, in her book Notes on Nursing, she talked about giving the invalid something that was easy to digest to help them build up their health and stamina. And guess what that was? They often called it meat tea then. So a cup of bone broth or meat tea, as well as easily digestible soups and stews. And something Florence talked about that really, really is so right is she was pointing out that there's professional nurses, but every one of us at some point in our lives is going to be a nurse, whether we're helping nurse a friend, a husband, our children, our parents, our neighbors. We are all nurses here and there.
Absolutely.
So she recommended bone broth for all our patients and friends.
Well, that is amazing. And I've noticed definitely a big difference. And so a while back, one of the athletes that I interviewed, he is on his way to the Olympics, but he's a Canadian champion, 9-time Canadian champion weightlifter. And so it's interesting with weightlifting because they don't have a long period of time to be able to rehydrate and refuel before their lift because they weigh in an hour prior, and a lot of them are cutting weight. So, and he uses his mother's bone broth chicken noodle soup in between, and that's how he prepares for his lift. And I totally correlated that with you when we talked, because that just resonated. And I was like, I know somebody else who does that, and I've definitely noticed a big difference with regards to my performance when I use bone broth and put in all those great vegetables. And so tell us a little bit more about how it helps athletes, because obviously there's some amazing properties in bone broth that helps athletic performance.
Well, athletes, as you know, are very prone to injuries, particularly things like knee injuries, joint injuries. And bone broth contains collagen and other proteins and other factors that keep our joints healthy. And indeed, the cartilage component of broth can rejuvenate cartilage, which most doctors consider impossible. Yeah. But we can do that, particularly with therapeutic levels of a cartilage supplement. So many top athletes, in order to keep their energy up and to protect themselves from injuries, to heal their joints and so forth, are regularly not only taking bone broth as a foundation in their diet, like your friend, but maybe they're taking cartilage products as well because it can prevent the injuries and if they're injured. And a lot of elite athletes do sooner or later get injured. It goes with the territory, to help them with their recovery, to help with a full recovery and a fast recovery. And that just reminds me of when Florence Nightingale was in the Crimean War. She brought the top chef from London with her, if you can imagine how persuasive this woman was.
Wow.
I mean, she was a powerhouse. And the reason was to help the injured soldiers get up and get back on the field and to keep the uninjured ones healthy so they could fight what they thought was the good fight. So that makes me think of athletes too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, what a wonderful story. That's amazing. And just to think of that drive to be able to make that happen is pretty incredible, but also so important for what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about sodium and with regards to bone broth and that support, just with what comes from that. Would that be a help to athletes as well with regards to bone broth?
Well, with bone broth, we have the option of adding as much salt as we choose when we're making our own. Mm-hmm. And most of the good companies, such as Flavor Chef, which is the brand that I recommend because it's, it's a very clean broth, grass-fed, pastured meats, filtered water, organic vegetables, which is something we need to think about.
Absolutely.
What they do is it's low salt. Most of the brands will be low salt because they know that you can't take the salt out, you can add it in.
Exactly.
But I would like to say that we shouldn't be scared of salt. And let's look at the history. Salt, it's the only rock we eat to start with. And it goes back thousands and thousands of years that people knew, animals know where the salt licks are. Yeah. People would travel miles and miles and miles to get salt. It was that important. It was essential to life. Yeah. And let's think of some of the sayings we know, like old salts. Old salts are wise men and women, probably wild too, if they're healthy.
If they're healthy, yes.
Wild and wise. And expressions like salt of the earth, refers to an unpretentious person who's got a lot of common sense.
Yeah.
Maybe you've noticed these days that common sense seems a little uncommon, particularly in the health world. People are going and chasing all sorts of things that make no sense, that go against Mother Nature.
Yes, and very true. And I find that it's like we're searching for some kind of magic pill rather than going back to the roots of kind of the things that have worked for centuries. And so, I definitely, a lot of my practice is going back there and using bone broth and using natural products. And salt, so important for adrenal function. And I mean, adrenals deal with stress. And if we're all under chronic stress and running around and we're busy and errands and all this other, everything else that's going on, even bigger need for natural mineralized salt.
One of my mentors was the late Hazel Parcells, and she died at 106 years young.
Wow, that's incredible.
She was a proponent both of animal products and also of salt. And if you're not feeling good, if your energy is down, having some salt and some water can actually revive us pretty quickly in many cases.
Absolutely.
Something worth trying out.
Yep, definitely. And so easy to do. It's right at our fingertips. Right? We've got unrefined sea salt available to us. We've got clean water. I mean, very, very easy for us to be able to do that and support our energy levels. Absolutely.
At the same time, I'd want to caution people against the way a lot of commercial products, canned and frozen and fast food products, are loaded up with salt and the wrong kind of salt, and it can be a problem. And even though I enjoy salt with most of what I make myself, I will notice how thirsty I can become if I have some of that less ideal.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have to remember too that a lot of those processed products that you're talking about, it's not mineralized salt that they're using in those products. It's the salt that they're dissecting from that mineral and stripping the minerals away. So really a lot of the goodness in that is gone. And so really important for us to have that unrefined sea salt where it's mineralized and everything's still intact. Very big difference there that many people don't understand. So cod liver oil, another one of your books, Hook, Line, and Stinker, The Truth About Fermented Cod Liver Oil. So tell us what brought this to light for you.
I was concerned about a fermented cod liver oil, and I say fermented, I put that in quotes because there's no way you can ferment an oil. You can ferment carbohydrates, protein putrefies, oil goes rancid. You cannot ferment a cod liver oil. It's just going to putrefy and go rancid. And so a lot of people were promoting an allegedly fermented cod liver oil that was in fact rancid, promoting it as a great health product, one that we absolutely had to have, that we needed to be feeding to our babies and children. And people were being harmed by it. And at minimum, a lot of digestive problems developing. At the worst, we've been seeing a lot of cancers in that community among people using that particular cod liver oil, including a whole cluster of glioblastoma cases. And these are people who are wise enough not to be on their cell phones all day.
Right.
So, there is definitely a glioblastoma and cell phone usage connection, but this was not with the group of people that I'm talking about, but they were all heavy consumers of this fermented cod liver oil, plus other cancers in that community. And at this point, we've got about 20 deaths, as well as a whole lot of people not doing well. And it's just sad. I did a 110-page report about that with the science. I raised the money to have laboratory testing, and we definitely showed significant problems with the product. But some people, the belief is stronger than the science, and they're taking it anyway.
Wow, after learning all of that and the science behind it, you think that they would make better choices. But you're right, sometimes belief is much stronger. And
well, we have to be careful about, worshiping certain people as our gurus and just doing what they say when there's no science backing it, when it's just their opinions.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very slippery slope and a little bit scary, especially when it comes to your health and wellness, and so many issues and conditions that come along with the use of that fermented, cod liver oil as well that you mentioned. And some pretty scary conditions in there too.
Yeah, and I just want to say that a regular cod liver oil that's not rancid can be very good for us. We do need vitamin A and D together. A lot of people are taking vitamin D supplements, which I do not recommend. I recommend the A and D that belong together. That's what Mother Nature designed for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so a regular cod liver oil, if it smells rancid, throw it out. That's the nature of anything in your kitchen. With any vegetable oil, with any oil, if there's a fish that's been left out on your counter and it doesn't smell right, you throw it away.
Exactly.
So if your body is burping something up, no matter who's telling you you should eat it, it's probably not the best choice for you.
That is correct. And I think we all know how to go through our kitchen and look for things. Once a week I'm clearing out the fridge with all the leftovers that I know shouldn't be consumed anymore. So same idea, definitely.
Keep in mind that the things that don't go bad, we shouldn't eat those either, because if they don't go bad, they're already dead.
That's very true. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is true. People don't think about that. So tell us, because obviously anti-aging is a huge part of your study and your certification. So anti-aging tactics and some tips that you might give our listeners or the people watching. What would some of those be?
I would say, first of all, that it is so much fun to be chasing the state-of-the-art ways of the future. And there are people who are spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on anti-aging drugs, and there are things like epitalon injections to increase their telomerase and to keep their telomeres nice and long so they can age really well. And I think all that is exciting. I'm totally into a lot of that. Mm-hmm. But we really have to first focus on the basics, because some of these people who are spending thousands on the drugs and the different hormones and all of the fun things are still not getting enough sleep. they're not spending time, good time with their families, with their communities, or they're not spending time meditating or somehow communing with spirit. They're missing some of the basics that we need in place. Yes. Like if you're getting 5 hours of sleep, you're not getting enough sleep.
Absolutely.
And these things are important. The sleep and going through the cycles appropriately, that's how your body is going to rejuvenate. And if you miss some of that time, you're not rejuvenating. And as a practical matter, if you're not getting enough sleep, you're having an inclination to eat too many carbs, do whatever you have to do to get more energy. And then some of those people are taking things like modafinil to keep their energy up high in their brain to focus, when maybe what they should be doing is getting more sleep.
Absolutely. And interestingly enough that you kind of focused a little bit on sleep there, because I have a student of mine, and anyways, he was having some issues with blood pressure. And, you know, kind of bringing it back again to the basics of stress. You know, are you under stress? What's happening? What could be causing this issue? And then found out that he wasn't sleeping very much, right? When it comes to the diet, nutrition, exercise, sleep, you know, your movement, whatever that might be, meditation, all so important. And yeah, if you don't have the basics, then trying to kind of chase after the higher, you know, ticket items for anti-aging isn't probably going to do you as much good as the person who has the basics and is practicing them.
And the good news is the basics are affordable for all of us.
Exactly. Exactly. So tell us about your work at OFM, because that's super exciting.
Well, most of the people at OFM are elite athletes, and they've got a wonderful product, Vespo, which is helping people maximize their performance. And for me, I'm not an athlete, but I like to stay fit. And I certainly find that when I'm using that product that I'm stronger, my workouts go a little better. But my work with OFM is not as a performance coach or the guide to, you know, how to win that next gold medal. Where I fit in is I want to help people get healthy and stay healthy enough so that long term they can continue enjoying whatever sport it is that they enjoy, that gives meaning to their lives. Or maybe it's, well, as it is for me, so I want to make sure that I can still hike the Grand Canyon when I'm 95 years old.
Amazing.
So a lot of athletes are so busy performing that they're not paying attention to the long-term implications. Right. So I like to work with the older athletes at, you know, 50 or whatever. At the point they're starting to think about, they don't want their body to break down, or maybe the body is starting to break down already and they're looking for answers. So I'm wanting them to look beyond the next race or the next Ironman or whatever they're competing in to look at the long-term picture.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And so important, because we all have to think long-term. And, you know, going back a lot of times when athletes have injuries, for example, there's an important decision to make there with regards to that. And I've had to do that with a couple of different athletes. And it's like, you know, can we push through and maybe there's just a little bit of inflammation and uncomfortableness, or are we going to make things worse? Because we don't want to do that, right? And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong with injuries and things like that, when they are just pushing through and they're not listening to their body and they're not, you know, kind of doing the due diligence to dig deep and see what the actual cause is and what the repercussions are if, you know, they push through too much. So very important. And one of the other things I kind of want to come back around to is community. Because you said with regards to just the interaction with community and how important that is. And so I think a lot of people nowadays maybe are missing a little bit of that because they're working so much and they're busy. And so tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I think we need to build not only time for family, but time for our neighbors, time for community into our lives, because it's not going to just happen automatically. Back when our grandparents lived in small towns, maybe everyone did know of each other. They took care of each other, looked after each other. And now we actually have to make it a priority or it's not going to happen. So some of the ways I think people can do this is actually in line with some of our other health goals. Like if you're going to the farmer's market or you're going to a small co-op to buy your grass-fed pastured meats, your free-range eggs and so forth, you will often find that you're working with the same cashier time after time. And you know that this is Carol and that's Patrick. And, and just being able to say hello to certain people and find out how they're doing. It's a small interaction, but it matters.
Absolutely.
And at the farmer's market, when you're getting to know your farmer, if you're going out to the farms with your children, this is a way to accomplish a few things at the same time. You're getting the good products, you have the good feeling of supporting the kind of farmers that we should be supporting and helping the planet. And you're also building some community into the farmer's life and into your own life.
Amazing. Amazing. And yeah, I think that's a big part sometimes of what people are missing nowadays. So I really hope that resonated with a few of you who maybe are listening or watching, and something that you'll think about next time that you head out to do your errands, maybe in the same place with the same people, and starting to build that. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you at OFM, how would they do that? How can they work with you?
Through the OFM site would work. And I have my own website, drkayladaniel.com. And there is a contact form there as well as my email. And I do respond to people. And I will be introducing a detoxification program shortly.
Ooh. Can you tell us about that? It seems kind of secret, but I'm interested.
Yes, it's called Dirty Little Secrets.
Oh,
and
it
has to do with the fact that detoxification is now a fad, and you're seeing all sorts of people saying that, 10 days, of some super special green drink is going to
change your life.
Change your life, change you mentally, physically, spiritually, and be a miracle worker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of us, we've got our bullshit detector on and we know that it's not going to be that good. And maybe we've even tried it and been disappointed. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at the real picture, what you need to do on a day-to-day basis to let your body detoxify. And also the whole thing, which is also a key to anti-aging, is, reducing the toxicity. We have a saying that if you want to dry off, get out of the rain. Again, one of those common sense things. So that would be part of it. And then helping the body, helping the liver, helping your body to heal itself.
I love it. That is amazing. I'm going to be so excited to see how that all unravels. And you're right. There are no magic detox drinks. I mean, and the funny thing is that a lot of people aren't ready to detox because they're not doing the basics. Their adrenals are fatigued, probably. They may have a sluggish thyroid. Their systems aren't working properly. They may have mineral imbalance or toxicities, and yet they're trying these detoxification products and putting more stress on their body because detoxifying is stressful to the body, right? So having enough energy to do so is really important, and people miss that a lot.
People really miss it. And again, they're looking for some magic fix when maybe the number one thing is getting more sleep and getting it at the same time every night. You don't have too little sleep during the week and then you sleep all weekend. That doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah, very, very important. So that's amazing. So I will make sure to have your contact info in the description. Whether you're watching or listening, it will be there. And that way, if you want to learn more about Dr. Kaayla Daniel, as well as her books, you can find those on Amazon.com as well as Amazon.ca. And so I just want to thank you for being with us today. I think that was fabulous. So much great information for people and really bringing it back to basics and giving people something that they can start with is very important.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on. And thank you for watching. If you're listening, give us a like. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. We have a brand new podcast here every 2 weeks, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to today's show. Head over to Pitel-Killah.com to gain access to some amazing free resources that will help you gain energy, erase debilitating symptoms, and be the best version of you. Remember to give this podcast a like and follow me on social media at Lisa Pitel-Killah. I'm here every 2 weeks with a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. Until next time.